You're listening to a 4x4 Radio Network podcast.
Hey Jeepers, welcome to another episode of On the Trail with Kevin and Scott. I'm Kevin, the engineer, the guy who, reads instructions, uses the right tools, and most of the time follow those instructions. And across the table from me?
I'm Scott. I'm the slapstick parts guy that don't really know where to go with this, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to continue to try and make fart jokes like possum waffle to make Kevin laugh, even under these extenuating circumstances. But remember, while we will share what works for us as well as what didn't, it's always important for you to
do your research, make your own decisions,
read the instructions.
And as we always say, please follow them. Yep. And this will become more evident as the show goes on.
Yes.
Well, folks, this is a tough one for us, a very tough one. Some of you know and some of you don't, but I'm going to be frank. This week, we lost 1/4 of the OTT staff to complications due to that bug that's kind of chewing up the whole world right now. Yeah. And I'm very sad to say that we lost Dorey Weston, Scott's beloved wife. 1/4 of the staff, 1/2 of the financial department. She was also our videographer. She was our camera person, both on the trail and walking, and obviously an avid off-roader. And Dorey was not single-skilled, shall we put it that way.
Yeah.
She was an avid jeeper. She was also an avid motorcyclist, not on the seat back, but literally in the handlebars.
Now, there was one time when there was a picture of me on the back of her bike.
Well, that's true. She was also a scuba diver. On the more dramatic, she was a flight nurse. So if you were in airvac, she was the one in the aircraft with you, keeping you alive. She was an ER nurse. She was an OR nurse. And most recently, she was an OR educator teaching others. And probably near and dear to many of us, she was an avid Aussie Shepherd mom, taking care of Gunner and the late Bruisinger. Yeah. And she is deeply missed. But Scott would like to share some of what worked and some of what didn't related to this particular incident. And again, Scott, deepest condolences.
Yeah, as we're recording this is literally fresh off of it because she passed literally yesterday.
Yep.
And she would want the show to go on, but again, it's that's why we kind of skipped the 15th, because I'll try. I never thought in 1,000 million years that I would be doing a eulogy for my wife on a podcast. And again, this is a Jeep show. We're going to get to Jeep stuff in a little bit, but she was an integral part of this show. During my health crisis I remember laying in the hospital bed doing research about podcasts, and she basically said, you need to blank or get off the pot.
Yep.
And, she goes, stop talking about it, just do it. And so that's when I called Kevin and I said, hey, Kevin, you want to do a podcast? To which he replied,
what's a podcast?
And here we are, kids.
5 years later.
Yeah.
Yes, Dorey was, quite frankly, one of the driving forces to this podcast creation, even though it was odd. She didn't particularly want to be on microphone.
No.
But she was behind the camera. Many of the shows, she was sitting over in that chair, taking notes, shaking heads. Yes, no. What the heck are you guys talking about? So,
and her eye rolls with my stereotypical bad jokes. But a lot of listeners reached out and said, hey, are you okay? One in particular, Ed, he's local here to us, and he, of course, texted me, wanted to make sure everything was okay. But it's hard. I'm not going to lie, because this has been ongoing since August 31st. Mm-hmm. And that is when I found her unresponsive in our bedroom. And I dialed 911 and they hauled her off. And as I'm watching my wife being hauled off in an ambulance, my mother calls to wish me a happy birthday. Mm-hmm. So, over the past few weeks, again, that's why we did the little show update on the 15th. Over the past few weeks, she was one of the lucky ones. Her body sprang back. Her liver, she went in with on death's door. I won't lie. There was a lot of complications with COVID. I really, I'm not going to go into detail, and I apologize. But she was on death's door. Her kidney function came back. Her lungs came back. She looked like she beat COVID, and she did. Her body beat COVID. But unfortunately, those of you who are in the medical field will know what I'm getting ready to say. During September 11th weekend, she postured, and all of her nurse friends were keeping me informed of there's hope until that happens. And that is a sign of massive brain damage. And then there's no other way to say it. And so during that time, I drove up to North Carolina. We talked to the family, and here's where we talk about doing your research and what worked for us and whatnot, is that I knew Dorey's wishes, and her wishes were not to have a machine keep her alive. And so that's where we talk. I'll get into that here in a minute, but I want to finish the story. And the family decided that, it was time to say goodbye. They drove down. And on Friday, the last week, which that was September 20th, or I have no idea. We'll find out here in a second. But as of Friday, they removed the vent tube.
Friday the 24th, yeah.
Friday the 24th, they removed the vent tube. And I sat there for an hour and a half next to my wife in the OR because we were going to try and do organ donation because, turn a tragedy into a positive. And I sat there for an hour and a half holding my wife's hand saying, it's okay. So that was hard, but she would want me to be strong. So here we are, That night she went into the hospice, and she held on for a few more days. And on Monday, it was Monday or Tuesday?
Tuesday you took.
Yeah, Tuesday I took Gunner because, we all were wondering what she was holding on to, because her body and her heart just did not want to give up. And I'm happy to say that hospice allowed Gunner to come in. Her left arm was really clean when he was done licking it, but she would want that. And at 4:30 on the 29th, she passed. And 4:30 in the morning, and she went very quickly and very peacefully. And she basically took her last few breaths, and that was it. Heaven gained another angel. But everyone's asking, how I handle these things, how I've been able to be so strong in the family in times like this. One, talking helps getting out, and two, I had such an outpouring of love and support from her friends, her family, listeners, our friends around here, including Kevin, who made sure I was eating, definitely wanted to make sure I was eating. And he was by me when I got a couple bad phone calls. But the important part is though, getting to the meat of our situation, she's loved and will, be missed by all. But
there's a key lesson learned to this,
yes,
Scott, that I think you should share with our listeners, maybe to let them be helped through this.
And that was a common phrase that everyone kept saying, if there's anything I can do, you let me know. And it wasn't until about week 2 into this where I kind of stopped and I said, yes, there is something you can do. And of course, everyone said, anything. What do we need to do? Turn around, hug your spouse. Tell them you love them. Never take a day for granted, and have that difficult talk about wishes. Talk about life insurance. Talk about an end of life. I made a joke with Dorey, because again, one of her first jobs was a nurse at a treatment facility, and she watched these people waste away. I grew up in the 80s with my mom in a nursing home. My mom was a nurse. I was under the nurse's station with my GI Joes. And I also watched people waste away. And Dorey said, nope, pull the plug immediately. And I said, whoa. If this looked like hope, give me a couple months, see if I can find the door. But, nope, give me a couple months. And Dorey was like, nope, don't even play that game, pull the plug.
And I want to chime in there, folks. Seeing Scott from the outside, that's a very difficult decision to make. But knowing Dorey's wishes allowed you to make that decision.
Yeah. And not only that, it is rough. I mean, for those of you who have ever been in this situation, I know it's a dark topic and people don't like talking about it, but you need to mentally prepare yourself, even if it's just like a bug out bag of mentally prepare yourself is, seeing a loved one, like that with a ventilator and, on life support practically is very, very hard. But, because of growing up the way I did, I knew what to expect.
Yeah. You're fortunate that way. And folks, understand that this is not a COVID-related subject, even though that was the trigger in this event. Mm-hmm. You could be out wheeling with your friends and roll the Jeep. You could, be injured in that manner. You could have a car accident on the way home. It could be, bad food that puts you, you don't know what can hit you at any given time. So this is a classic case of be prepared. And you guys were blessed to have that discussion literally just weeks before this happened.
Yeah.
And we can't stress it enough. for my case, Uncle Sam kind of put the finger on my forehead when I deployed and said, "Thou shalt." And I didn't really think about it, but they made us do it. And Sue and I did our whole package back in 05, 06, have updated it once since then. You don't have to write it down. You don't have to have a living will, but you need to have a discussion between significant members of your family so you know what your wishes are.
Well, you talk about not having a living will. There was one caveat. If you have, your wishes, like let's say you have your own personal checking account and the wife doesn't have access to. Sometimes some couples, they do split money that way.
Right.
Name the beneficiary.
Yep.
Go in there and talk about, like if you have properties, because if you don't, it's going to go to probate, and that may
different states have different probate laws.
Yes. So take that time and spend time with an attorney. And I know, again, a lot of people don't like talking about this because it'll come true if I talk about it. Well, we never talked about it, and it came true. We did talk about it, and it did come true, but not in the way most people think.
No, it was more of a thank heavens that we had that talk.
Yeah, and while everything is good and life will go on just like the show, because she will want us to do that, I think it's an important topic to bring up, again, like Kevin talked about. As a Jeeper, we are a tight-knit group. We are a tight-knit family that looks out for each other and cares about each other immensely. And that's why I feel talking about this and talking with everybody is a form of therapy to me, because, again, I'm able to get it out. I am in uncharted territory, and it's a territory I hope no one ever has to be in, but it's the reality of the situation.
Well, in all marriages, it's going to happen to one of the two of the partners sooner or later. Yeah. You hope it's later. In your case, it was a little sooner than anybody ever expected. My heart goes out to you on that one, sir. And the fact that you've handled it as well as you do is unreal. But it did bring home even to us the thoughts of, Jeeping in itself. Let's be honest, we are not in the National Traffic Safety Administration's #1 safest picked vehicle.
Yeah.
So our odds of being in this situation related to our Jeep. I mean, again, we're in that group of people. Unfortunately, that's hold my beer, watch this.
Well, there was actually at Hard Rock, there was a gentleman that rolled his XJ or Grand Cherokee, one of the two, and lost his arm.
Yeah, because he had it out the window.
Yeah, things were touch and go there for a while. So, if your loved one is put in a chemically induced coma, for whatever reason, you don't have your answers. You don't have power of attorneys, and you don't have these situations. If you're just a dating and you're strong, but you don't want to be married for whatever reason, it's okay to have that power of attorney just in case. And again, you can change it later if things don't work out. That's not a problem. But the best thing to do is like we talk about being prepared on the trail. Yep. Having our safety recovery gear and all that. It's no different than to
be
have
prepared
a plan
in life.
Yeah, have a plan and at least have a course of action, because just like. And I guess that, that's like actually a good way to say it. Because we had our recovery gear in a way,
yep,
it wasn't a panic situation. It was, okay, what do I do next? And like Kevin said to me today, is sometimes you don't think day to day. You think breath to breath. You start slowly and you start to think these things. So, and you work your way up to day, which I'm in day to day right now. But taking that time. So again, learn from not really our mistakes, but our preparedness helped a very terrible situation. I survived.
Not be worse.
I survived 4 weeks, and that's the way I am today because of that. And again, we're going to be okay. The show is going to continue to go because she would want that. And I actually, again, this is therapeutic for me. So, but while I was dealing with this painful subject, Kevin actually did some really cool Jeep-related stuff. Heck of a segue. Yeah.
Heck of a segue to follow
Let me dump this emotional bag on you and go, here you go, buddy. And now that you're covered in my crying manure, now you can make it shine, buddy.
No, we're just back to this is a Jeep show. And honestly, we think what happened with Scott, as horrific as it was, and I'm stunned that you're able to do this show. My hat's off to you. We've discussed on other things how we're going to kind of make sure that the memory of Dorey as part of this podcast doesn't go away either. So that will come in. But as Scott said, with my co-host out dealing with life, I went ahead and started doing some other work. And again, if you follow us on Facebook, you've seen some teasers from my What's He Up To posts. I got a call from Shane Underhill at Specialty Drive Shafts of Tampa, also Gulf Coast Drive Shafts online. And Shane had purchased a
project.
Yeah, a project YJ from under a house. You heard the story today.
Yeah, I heard the story.
That the previous owners are friends of theirs, and they had bought this Jeep with great hope because the person before them had fixed it up. Don't you love it when people say that, Scott?
Yeah.
I fixed it up.
It runs.
It runs. And promptly broke the rear drive shaft, and they pulled it under the garage, or under the house in a little, I can picture this post house or whatever. And it sat there for what? They bought a boat, and the Jeep sat there for 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
5 years. Some things do not improve with age.
No.
And Jeeps with broken components
they age like milk.
Yeah.
Not fine wine, or as Jeff Dunham would say, fish head soup.
Yes. So anyway, yeah, he's laughing because he got to see the product, so he knows that it had a happy ending at that point. But Shane had brought it back, and he and his employees, he has a couple of great employees, and they were going at it, and they got it running, sort of, kind of, nearly.
Yeah, they got it limping.
Yeah, but it also didn't have air conditioning, heater, blower, controls, dash, some minor details that would be nice to have. And discovered when he started finding charred wires, he called and asked if I was willing to come in and help him. And to his credit, it was just help. He was with me virtually every day that we were working on it.
Yeah.
But what turned out to be, well, we can come out and hook up some bits and pieces and clean up some stuff, ended up being that old statement of a 5-minute project is only one away from a 3-day ordeal.
Okay, I got to bleep that now. Hold on.
Sorry, folks. You can, even if he bleeps it out, you'll know what the word is. But see, I've got to get him back into the regular groove here.
Exactly. He's got to keep me busy.
So we opened up the harness. We started under what was left of the dash assembly. There was no dash in there, so it was just hanging there. And it did remind me of, the festooned Spanish moss hanging from the trees here in Florida.
Yeah.
Ragged ends everywhere, kind of gray to rusty brown, and pretty much non-functional.
Yeah.
And we started looking, and the more we started looking, because he had some very specific goals for what this Jeep was going to be, and they're pretty much about as polar opposite to what we saw of the wiring harness to what it required. So long story short, to move forward, we had to go in and take about half a dozen steps backwards. We pulled the harness out of the interior, what was left of it. Yeah. Sad to say that what should have been a harness that was front to back and fairly hefty was about 4 feet long and full of burnt, crummy plastic.
Yeah, Shane mentioned that when you guys went to the engine compartment, he would pull the rat's nest out, walk like 5 feet away from the Jeep, and everything was still connected.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, we got to trim some of this up a little bit.
Yeah. So we went into the harness, and we sat down, and he learned how to use a factory wiring manual, which I will tell you that shows it is possible that the average person can learn how to read those things. And he actually started enjoying it. I would sit there picking through dead end wires that were just chopped off, and the ends were shorted against something or burnt up or melted
together.
And I'd go, this color wire, I've got a white with a yellow tracer. And he'd flip through that book. Oh, that was this. We don't use that anymore. I don't have that anymore. There is no seatbelt buzzer left in this Jeep. There is no, this. And we get to the point where, okay, we probably should have backup lights.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, there's a piece of a wire here. It's this color. Yeah, that's part of the backup light circuit. Well, it doesn't go anywhere. Where's it supposed to go? So coming to the quick point, we actually depinned and removed everything that we didn't need. Mm-hmm. We depinned and replaced everything we needed but was destroyed.
Right.
And then anything that was left, which was remarkably little original, we cleaned up.
Right.
And then made sure it was still in one piece. Went through, somebody had gone through this Jeep's wiring harness in the past and used duct tape on every one of the splices.
Yeah.
I mean, gummy, gooey, silver, the fabric kind, you know, the really cheap stuff. Oh, it was terrible. He's got a bad joke running through his head.
Well, okay. Hopefully our audience is old enough to get this reference. I pictured the guy working on the Jeep with the wiring. Ready? Work. And just throwing wires all over the place and all that. You know, the Swedish chef from the Muppets.
That is fitting.
That is actually what went through my mind. You know, it's a sign that I am coping well because I'm coming up with Swedish chef jokes. That and possum waffle.
That's a new one, folks. You heard it here first.
Trademarked by OTT Industries.
Yeah. Then we moved under the hood, and I was like, we got to go under the hood. So we decoupled at the firewall, pulled the plug in the fuse box and the panel and all that. Work. And this Jeep was a transitional Jeep. It was a 1990. It had a carburetor, but with a little computer that sat beside it that supposedly tuned it. It had points in a coil, but it had a little booster box there from Chrysler on the other side to it. But it still had a ballasted resistor, and it was the worst in the transition. And somebody
Cash, sorry.
Yeah, and then somebody had just come along and ripped everything out. And I'm not going to say that the wiring was messed up, but something got the wires that go to the brake safety switch shorted so hot that they melted and caught fire.
Yeah.
I showed him this piece of charred copper about 3 feet long.
Yeah, when you were talking about repinning the wires, you know, what color is the charred copper? Oh, that was the...
Yeah, fortunately, we knew that from the connector end.
Yeah.
And so, again, we started over, tore the whole harness apart, picked through it. Fortunately, the forward light harness was mostly intact.
Yeah.
Had a few repairs to do to it. The harness that went across the engine and went down and, you know, fired the coils and those kind of things, we took most of that out because there had been a add-on coil and trigger control, electronic spark control system. And it was actually a Summit Racing's version of the what's the brand name? The big brand name?
I think it is, or MSD.
MSD was the coil, but the controller was a Summit. And fortunately, I was able to find all the data online for that, so I had the manuals for that. And then we created an entire electrical circuit, including separate terminals, separate grounds. Because when we finished the wiring and started reconnecting it, we still weren't getting proper headlights and turn signals.
Yeah.
So I did a basic check. I think I've talked about it on the show before. We grabbed the voltometer, we clip the negative lead to the negative terminal, and we put it on ohms, and we start poking around the Jeep. Mm-hmm. And we were good to the engine because that's where the ground cable went to.
Right.
0.2 of an ohm. Great. Because, folks, Chrysler's books all say 5 ohms or less, we're good. 1 ohm or less, we're fantastic.
Yeah.
And then I stuck it on the firewall. And that was about 22 ohms.
Woof.
And I stuck it on the fender the battery was sitting on. That was 9 ohms. I stuck it on the radiator where the headlights are mounted. Infinite. No continuity. Stuck it on the driver's side fender and was some 60 or 70 ohms of resistance between that and the negative terminal. And I looked at him and I said, Amazon sells ground straps.
Yep.
You need a bulk pack.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I was afraid you're going to make me take everything off. I said, no, then they rust. I said, Jeeps either need to be bare metal at the bolted joints, which makes them rust, or you paint them so they don't rust, but then they don't conduct electricity. So you need to put and give him credit. Shane dug into that. They came in and he went around, cleaned off that, put bolts in, put this in.
Oh, yeah.
We used the star washers, the inward facing teeth so that they'd ground out with that. And I'm going in, and that Jeep is, we did all that. And he says, so let's check to see if the lights work. Turn them on, and dang, it lit up the whole end of the shop. He goes, I didn't know they were that bright.
Hey, that Jeep was 9-year-old me after my report card. Grounded. I do have to make a quick note. I don't know if you're going to get to the story or not, but when we were talking about wiring, you actually found out that the Napa near you actually carries a bulk wire.
Yes, they do, and that's something I will give a shout out to Napa in general, but also definitely the one on 78th Street in Brandon, Florida. They have a wall. Now, these packs are pretty dusty, but they've got that baseline kit, and I needed 14 gauge orange because that's the Jeep color in that year for switched power. All right. And I didn't really want to run red because red is battery power full time. So if you're, and I'm trying to do the wiring for somebody after me, you know, so that it kind of sticks as much as possible to the factory wiring circuitry. And I'm calling around trying to find it, and they're going, "Oh, you got red," you know.
Yeah.
I needed 14 gauge, which is fairly heavy, you know. And lo and behold, they have a rack, and there was reds, orange, yellows, blue, purples.
So you had a wall of Skittles.
Yeah, really did. Skittles all strained up and coiled up in little 25 and 50-foot bundles and stuck in blister packs and hung on the wall and allowed to sit there and marinate in the dust for a couple of years. But they work fine when you clean them off.
That's good old American vintage stuff, you know, back when Bush Sr. was in office. Yeah. Back when they made things to make.
Yeah. So anyhow, we reconstructed probably... We threw away probably 30% of the wiring. We probably reconstructed about 40% of the wiring, and whatever's left out of those two, another 30.
Bet you didn't think you'd be doing math and doing program, did you?
Yeah, it was wild. So why did we go through all this? Yes, we brought most things back to what I would call a pre-mutilation state.
Right.
So now we had to start adding all the new stuff in. And what Shane had decided to do, since he had the remnants of the plastic dash, which was in pieces with the tachometer, non-functional, the speedometer, somebody had cut the speedometer cable with a zip wheel. So it wasn't going to, and he looked at restoring it, and he's like, nah, he had a better idea. He's a racer at heart. He's had hot rods and racers, and the guys that work with him have similar. And one of them has this neat little toy from Holley. And folks, if you wanted to go look it up, Holley makes the Holley glass dash. And they have the Pro model. And it's what I'd say that's probably about a 10.5 by 6 inch rectangle.
It's a good size iPad.
Got a good size, a little stretched in one dimension. And it can be flat mounted on the surface, only protrudes out about 1/4 of an inch. And it's that turned off iPad black.
Right.
And it has pre-configured 34 frickin' inputs. And you power it up and you have a dash. You have any gauges you want. You can make them what you want. You can put switches where you want it. It is a computer programmer's dream.
Yeah.
And trying to marry
1990s Jeep.
1990 Jeep with 2021 electronics was interesting, to say the least. But the end result, Scott saw it today, is really awesome.
It's cool. I'm not going to lie. It looks like Darth Vader's bathroom, like something on a Knight Rider.
Yeah. And Shane, bless his soul, he comes at me with the special request list. And, well, you know, I like the key switch on the column, but I really don't want it to start the Jeep. I just want it to unlock the steering lock and to kind of enable the ignition system. Yeah, we can do that. And then you know what a gun switch is? I said, yes, I know what a gun switch is. It's that little toggle with the red light on the end and the little slap lever on top that if you need to kill it in a quick, you just slap it and it goes and turns everything off. He said, yeah, I want that for the true ignition, but I don't want that to come alive till the key is turned. Okay. And then but I also want to push the start button. Okay.
We can do that too.
We can do that. That was some curious wiring. But now it gives you multiple levels of control. And then we have 3 toggles. And what we've done is created a driving panel, which is ignition, crank, turn the dash on, turn on auxiliary power. You know, all of this will turn on the electric fuel pump, which is, by the way, not stock. That was something he had added to the frame rail. And he's going to change to an in tank because that one on the frame rail is.
Real quickly, did you talk about how he got a blank dashboard? And
Well, no, I was getting to that.
Okay, sorry.
That's mounted to the left. And as Scott brings in,
Spoiler alert.
he went and realized that the YJ tub and the CJ tub are the same, and very easy right now to go out with the popularity of the CJ reconstructions is you can get a blank CJ dash. Has no holes punched. It's just that flat piece of metal with the little L bend at the top that hangs from.
Yep.
And he cut all his own openings and did a bang-up job doing it. And so the only original switch on the whole face of that quote-unquote dash is the light switch. Without the dimmer, mind you, because there's nothing to dim. There's no in-tiered lights from that. So, and then we have that 3 controls. And the toggles are powered full-time. So you can turn on the dash. You can turn on the auxiliary systems. And he knows that it could run the battery down, but he wants to be able to take this Jeep to events as a demo. He's a drive shaft manufacturer. He wants to have a demo vehicle to show off his wares. So he wants to be able to leave on the halo lights. He wants to be able to let the radio play, perhaps with a running monologue on a CD or something like that.
He wants to show the glass dash off.
He wants to show the glass dash off, but not be able to let someone hop in there and drive off. And if they could even figure out how to get this thing to start, that'd be amazing. They'd obviously be one of our podcast listeners because that's the only other people that know how it works.
Well, no, there is a Konami code to get inside that thing, but we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah. And so then we did a whole separate panel over on the passenger side with all of his fun stuff. That's where his halo lights go. He's going to have his winching lights, all things. There's 6 different circuits. We added a 5-circuit fuse relay panel in the Jeep under the dash, easily accessible for service, but it controls the critical functions to turn on the fuel pumps, to, other things that are needed, the ignition relays and those kind of things to bring the rig to life. But there's also a 6-position fuse and relay box, watertight sealed, out on the left fender, kind of almost where they are on later TJs.
Yeah.
And it has a chocket block, if you're familiar with that, which is the row of double screws so that you can have the wires underneath and then drop in your things up top and tighten them up and make continuity. We pre-wired the whole thing so that now as he adds a device, all he has to do is go change the fuse to the right level fuse for that device, put the power line under one of the chock block screws for whichever switch he wants, and ground the other lead, and now he's got internal control for it.
Right.
And so it's kind of a neat system that you can fire up. He spent probably a weekend programming and designing his dash so that he's got, all the gauges that he wants to see on it. It's really a neat Jeep. He's painted the dash, the blue, what was it?
Ocean blue.
Ocean blue.
Yeah.
And for his wife, and he likes it too.
Yeah.
And but it's one of those jarring things. Here you walk up and you see this 90 Jeep YJ, and right now there's no hood on it, and it's kind of a forest green,
dark forest green.
And then you sit down and look inside, and it's black rhino lined, which it's going to stay, and then this bright blue dash with all of this modern stuff sitting in it. It's really like, oh, whoa. Let me step back and do this again. So that's what we've been working on for the last couple of weeks, trying to help a fellow Jeeper. Just help him out because, he's going to build this, but to get it built exactly the way he wanted, we spent probably a good 9 or 10 days, probably 6 to 8 hours a day, fixing things.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of little tricks that you learn along the way, folks. So, for example, this dash likes the GM sensors for the oil pressure and the coolant.
Yeah.
And the oil pressure, fortunately, the bung is the right size to screw the GM sensor in. But the older 4 liters used to put the thermostat, or not thermostat, sorry, the temperature probe in the back of the head on the what we now know as the vent hole on the modern ones.
Right.
And that's a little tiny 3/8 thread, and the temperature sensors don't fit in it. And I could have made that one work, but it wouldn't have read really accurately. So the good news is the thermostat housings are the same between the YJ and the TJ, other than the temperature fitting.
Yeah, you say it's better for a temperature sensor to be immersed in the water.
Correct. Not sitting in an offshoot branch where it doesn't get circulation. But if the end of it's sitting right there where the coolant is flowing past it, you're going to get the most accurate read.
Yeah.
Well, we just found an old one and cleaned it up and put it in there. And lo and behold, it reads. So it's been fun. We're going to get some more pictures, but I know that Shane is going to be posting it on the
company websites
and Facebook pages. Let's see if I can find that.
Yeah, if you Facebook Specialty Drive Shafts, they're also on Instagram.
Instagram. I think most of his pictures have been up on Instagram right now.
Yeah, the Facegram and Insta Twitters.
Yeah, that too. So
Instabooks. Sorry.
Yeah, and come on. But anyway, it's definitely a lot of fun to work on these older Jeeps and then try to do these.
Like an interior restroom, and that's a really cool. Excuse me, really cool part about everything is that it took me back to when I had my YJ.
Yep.
You know, that was kind of cool. That was a fun little Jeep, and I miss that thing. I mean, that was a matter. Speaking of Jeeps in general, I've been driving the Gladiator so much. The first time in a month, I took the LJ out for a spin down here.
Well, that's going to be one of our next projects, isn't it?
Yeah, we got to get that lift on.
So we're going to be putting a Metal Cloak Game Changer 3.5 on an LJ, which means the longer of the back arms, in the kit. And we're going to do this old school, I believe, at this point. It sounds like we're probably going to set it up and do a garage floor jack stand swap like I did on mine. That should be loads of fun. Mm-hmm. I do have a quick shout out, though. Yeah. And this one is... kind of bizarre, shocked me in a very good way, given everything else that's been going on. One of the mods I did to my Jeep back in 2014 was I ordered a High Rock bumper tire carrier combo. They don't, unfortunately, sell it for the TJs anymore, but then again, I'm 3 generations out of spec now. Yeah. So that's understandable. And I've always liked it because it supports a spare tire on a cantilevered arm that isn't on a plastic pivot like many of the tire carriers. It's on 2-inch tapered roller bearings, top and bottom, greasable. And it's fantastic. It takes the weight, take all the pounding, and it did not fail unto itself.
Yeah.
It then uses a little... what do I want to call this thing? I'm struggling here.
A clevis or? Well,
it's not a clevis. It's a 2 Heim joints and adjuster. It's a turnbuckle. It's a turnbuckle. It's aluminum main body and stainless on the Heim joint ends that goes between that arm and the tailgate so that it moves with the tailgate. It's held by the tailgate with the tailgate latch, but the tailgate doesn't carry any of the tire weight, which is, to me, a really cool design. So way to go, Best Top on it. What happened? Well, just yesterday, I'd left here and there was a car broke down on the road with another car trying to help, and it was obvious they were having some trouble. So I pulled over to see if I could help. And it was just a case of blown tire, lug nut stuck, and I've got that, pop open breaker bar that, you can go on there. But I opened the back of the Jeep to get it out, and the tailgate opened up, and I have a bad habit of just kind of letting it go against the rubber stop, except that the tire kept going this time with a loud pop.
Whoops.
And the arm kept swinging, and I was able to grab it before it kept swinging around and did damage to the body, but I'm going, what the hoo da? Well, the little stainless steel Heim joint parted ways, a 7/16 stress fractured. And I'm going, oh boy, where do I find that specialty part?
Yeah.
I still haven't found a match for it. I have found models that should work, and I will continue just so that I have a spare. But I decided, okay, let me call Best Top. And I got on the phone with Mr. Turner, William Turner, in their service area.
Right.
And the bizarrest thing is I'm explaining where I live, and he goes, Riverview, you mean just south of Brandon? I'm going, Brandon? He says, yeah, I grew up in Brandon.
Sweet.
So that was nice. But anyhow, we went through trying to figure out what model number of this discontinued tire carrier was that I had bought in 2014. And he located it. He even emailed me pictures from the parts manual for it. We figured out what it was, because even though I'm calling it 2 Heim joints and adjuster, they show it as a single part.
Right.
Okay. And so it was just marked Clevis. And so he was like, there's only one. So, and I said, okay. And I'll be honest with you. I gave him my address and everything, where I'm shipping it to. He says, yeah, we still have the parts in stock. We'll send it. And I said, awesome. Okay. So what's the bill? And do you take a card? He goes, oh, no charge.
Really?
I said, and that's exactly what I said. Dude, this is 7 years old of trail rides. And he goes, it broke, didn't it? I said, well, yeah. Did you cut it? No. Did you hit it with a hammer? No. I just opened the door. He said, exactly. Shouldn't have done that. It'll be there Monday.
Sweet.
So, William, 2 thumbs up, man. Mm-hmm. That's just customer care beyond customer care. And Best Top, you guys, it's a great product. I'm not getting rid of mine anytime soon.
No.
And I wish I could tell you to put it back in production for the few TJs that don't have it, but I know that's probably not a fiscally secure product. But those of us that have that, nah.
Yeah, TJ, they're going, no, you mean JT, right?
No, I don't.
Check out the dyslexic guy.
Yeah. So anyway, shout outs to Best Top on that kind of stuff there.
Yeah, there's actually another good a shout out I'd like to do, because Dorey and I were supposed to go, and so was Kevin, to Jasper Jeep Fest in September, and
Sheriff's Jeep Fest, by the way.
Sheriff's Jeep
They've
Fest.
corrected us every year. We've said it wrong.
And I unfortunately, I knew we weren't going to make it, so I went ahead and reached out to them and said, hey, my wife was just transported to the hospital. At this time we didn't know, how bad it was, and I said, hey, this is her favorite Jeep event. Could you obviously, she got a chance to get the coin and the sticker. Could you at least send that to us? I'd like to give it to her when she wakes up. And they said, absolutely. And they sent it out. And unfortunately, the envelope ripped and the coin was missing. So I figured, okay, I know there's a limited production. So I sent a picture of the ripped envelope and I said, hey, thank you for everything. I really appreciate you guys trying. But unfortunately, the envelope ripped and the coin was lost. And they said, oh, my God, so sorry. We'll get another one out to you right away. So still waiting on it to get here, but they're going to reship out the coin, which will be nice.
That was a very nice touch by them, and we'll have to next year see them, because I don't know about you, but I still plan on.
I would really like to go. I think that would be a very good thing to do. To like we talked about honoring. I think that's a great idea.
Yep. So, oh boy,
yeah. This is a. Again, as we said, this is not even 72 hours afterwards.
Yeah, this
a lot to unpack.
I'm still stunned that Scott come to me. He says, I want to do this. I need to do this. I said, then we'll do it. Yeah. So, folks, it's an interesting time for all of us in life, and we thought 2020 was a bad year. 2021 has decided that it needed to show its younger or older sibling a thing or two about being miserable. But having said that, it's not necessarily what goes bad. It's how you react and climb back out of the hole. So we're in the process of climbing back out of the hole, as is the rest of the world, hopefully. And I hope all of you are doing well. I'm going to throw one little public service comment on the end of this, and it's not judgmental in anybody's way. What I am going to say is this. There's a lot of people saying a lot of things in both directions about any one of the COVID vaccines. Mm-hmm. There's pro-vaxxers and anti-vaxxers, and before everybody hangs up and says, oh, well, I'm done with the podcast, I am neither, okay? Yeah. I am neither. But what I do want to say is please, 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 please do not get your medical advice from Dr. Google and Nurse Facebook.
Yeah.
All right. Those are opinions. Mm-hmm. Those are hearsay. Even the ones, the people that are coming on who may be giving you truth, you don't know.
Yeah.
Make your decision. This would be my recommendation, folks. No vaccine ever in history has been 100% safe.
Right.
Period. But what are your risks? What are your risks personally from the virus and the vaccine? Well, there is somebody you can talk to about that. And you have to be honest with that person. And that would be your doctor, your primary care physician, your healthcare worker, whatever you wish to call them. Mm-hmm. And you need to sit down and make an appointment with them and talk it over. In my case, I talked it over with my doctor, with my age and my pre-existing conditions. He said, I'm recommending that you do it. And he said, yes, there is a risk from the vaccine. He said, there's always a risk. Mumps, measles, chickenpox, they all have risks. Some people did not react well to those vaccines. Some people died to those. Yet we all couldn't go to school if we didn't get them.
Yeah.
And politics be damned. Make what's the right decision for you, but make it with somebody who can give you the informed feedback. That's all I ask, folks. I really want to see each and every one of you at the next Jeep event, you know. So please, 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 you know, stay away from the hype and the BS. You know, stick to asking what's the best tire for your Jeep.
No. Can I fit 35s without a lift?
Yes. Can I fit 35s without a lift?
Yeah.
But, you know, the right person, in my humble opinion, or maybe not so humble in this case, is to talk to your medical professional. Your doctor. They can talk to you realistically with the actual published data, you know, on what are your risks? What are the triggers from the vaccine that might interfere with your medications? Mm-hmm. What are the things in your history that COVID might be deadly for you? Yeah. Okay. And therefore, yes, there's some risk from a vaccine, but the risk from the virus is worse. So that's the best way that I think of as an engineer to make this hard decision. I will not judge any person, no matter which way they choose. That's their choice in life, and that's key that way. And that's just my opinion, and I'll get off my soapbox at this point.
And I'm going to step on it.
Okay.
Some people have asked me the question about Dorey, and quite honestly, I'm never going to answer that question because that was between Dorey and her doctor. Mm-hmm. They discussed it. I discussed the same thing with my doctor, and, you know, again, because of my heart disease, I was really worried about inflammation around the heart. And the doctor basically told me, well, if you get COVID, you'll have inflammation around your heart anyways.
Yep.
So we, again, don't take what I did or what Kevin did, because we're not going to tell you what we did, because you shouldn't be coming to a Jeep podcast for medical advice.
Right.
So I will reiterate Kevin's that talk to your doctor. Okay. You know, the unfortunate thing is, though, is I had a conversation with, because it took me four months to get into my doctor.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with my doctor by a video chat on Wednesday. Thursday, I had my fever.
Yep.
So keep this in mind, that things move quickly, and it's okay to ask questions, but ask them to the right person.
Exactly. Facebook can be fun.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not it's not the location of all human knowledge.
Yeah.
Google is good, but again, you can't say, Google, I need to know if this vaccine is good for me with my history of hypertension, GERD, you know, this, that, and the, you know, and the mole on the left cheek, not that cheek, the other cheek.
Well, you also got to remember, the same time Kevin and I talked about, we were looking at wiring harnesses for the TJ.
Yeah.
Oh, no, the JT doing the steps.
Yes.
And Kevin put in there door wiring harness for Jeep Gladiator truck, and he got 97 F-150 wiring harnesses. So keep that in mind when you're going to get medical advice from Google. You know, it'll tell you about how to you know, what wrench you should be buying next.
Yes, and so the right person, in our opinion, is your doctor, and the right decision is what you two decide is right for you.
Yep.
And beyond that, you can go into all the political nightmares. Go ahead. Go onto Google. Go onto Facebook.
Find another show. We're about Jeep podcasts and all that kind of stuff. Hey, look, every time a bell rings, an angel gets her wings.
Yes.
I just said that right out like that, guys.
You did. Well, you know, I did see a very tongue-in-cheek meme on Google, which was kind of funny. Actually, it was YouTube. Mm-hmm. And it was slightly different. It says, every time a bell rings, an angel gets his halo. And then you see a bell ring, and then you see an angel cussing, trying to go to sleep because of the glowing halo above his head was staying lit up. So remember, it's all perspective, folks. It's all your personal perspective. So with that, we've kind of made this one kind of an up and down podcast, and tough. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, no, we'd rather be honest with you all the listeners, because again, the outpouring of support was very, very needed, and I thank you very much. And you know, we're going to hopefully have like 2 or 3 weeks to record, you know, the next show, and our plan is to have one on October 15th.
Oh yeah, that's the intent. And so far, with the exception of what I would call a minor infomercial that Scott did 2 weeks ago, we're still pretty much on par for making it. We do hope that the world gets a little more stable, because we tried really hard this year, folks, to get out to events.
Yeah.
And the world kind of sucker punched us.
Yeah. We literally had an event scheduled the 18th to go. Oh, speaking of events, Crawling for the Fallen.
Oh, yeah. See, we're off script entirely. Crawling for the Fallen is coming up.
Yep.
We're still doing the readings.
We are still doing the night readings. I told Chrissy that right away, you know, because I said, you know, right now things are in chaos, but we absolutely are going to do these readings of the names. And she said, okay.
Yeah, we want to support all of our first responders, particularly those that have fallen, and their families that are left behind. So with that, well, actually, the Jeep, my Jeep's broke. Can we get in your Jeep? We don't have to lock hubs, but, you know, if I drive right now, my spare tire swings out and smacks the passerbys.
Hey, that could be kind of fun. I know where we could drive. Moving on. So, with that, I think it's time we lock hubs, put the Jeep in 4 low, and hit the trail.
You did it. I'm impressed.
Well, not only did I do that, but I also remembered to take nothing but pictures, memories, and your trash when you leave the trail.
That's right.
As always, we want you to wheel legal, tread lightly, and even though I got the scrambled a little bit, I still got the words out.
You did. I'm impressed. Well done, sir.
Yes.
So, folks, we appreciate it. Till the next one on the 15th, you know, keep the black parts on the green side and the
shiny bits on the upside.
Shiny bits on the upside, you know. It worked better that way.
Shiny bits on the upside. That's going to be my autobiography. And with that, remember, have yourself a wonderful trip. We'll see you on the next one. And remember the last phrase of the day, possum waffle.
Bye now.
Bye.
Proceeding has been provided for entertainment only. Proper service and repair procedures are vital to the safe, reliable operation of all motor vehicles, as well as personal safety of those performing those repairs. Standard safety procedures and precaution, including the use of safety goggles and proper tools and equipment, should be followed at all times to eliminate the possibility of personal injury or improper service which could damage the vehicle or compromise its safety.
What he said. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. You guys have a great day.
Bye.
This has been a Bent Axle Media production.